Welcome to the LGX Laser Grader Setup Guide. In this video, we'll walk you through the key adjustments so you can run your grader with accurate, consistent performance. When adjusted correctly, the LGX Grader receiver plate allows the skid steer's boom to lower completely, producing consistent pressure from the stabilizing skid shoe and creating a smooth, accurate finish. In this video, you will learn how to adjust the receiver plate to adjust the skid shoe when it is set too high or too low. To adjust the grader blade attachment, you will need these tools: screwdriver pry bar, 1.5-inch wrench, 1 5/8-inch wrench, magnetic bubble level, tape measure, 1/2-inch impact gun with a 1 1/8-inch impacted rated socket. Step 1. Adjust the skid shoe angle. Start with the skid steer connected to the grader attachment, then lower the grader onto a flat, level surface using the skid steer's boom. Level the grader by adjusting the bucket tilt. Place a level on one of the masts for the elevation cylinders to confirm that the attachment is perpendicular to the ground. Check the current angle of your skid shoe. If adjustment is needed, use the 1/2-inch wrench to loosen the turnbuckle jam nuts on the rear turnbuckles on both sides of the attachment. With the 1 5/8-inch wrench, extend or retract the rear turnbuckles until the back edge of the skid plate is 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch closer to the ground than the front lip of the skid shoe. This will give you a slight 1-degree angle with the skid shoe. Match the turnbuckles on both sides by measuring the distance between the two mounting bolts for each rear turnbuckle. When both rear turnbuckles are even and adjusted so that the skid shoe is at the desired angle, retighten the turnbuckle jam nuts to lock the length. Step 2. Adjust the receiver plate. Begin with the grader attached to the skid steer, level and over a flat, hard surface. Lower the skid steer boom down to the hard stops. Measure the distance from the bottom of the skid shoe to the ground. It should measure between 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch. If the gap is larger than 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, raise the receiver plate to lower the skid shoe. If the skid shoe touches the concrete and raises the front wheel's tracks, when the boom is fully lowered, lower the receiver plate to raise the skid shoe. If you need to raise or lower the receiver plate, detach the grader from the skid steer, loosen the 6 receiver plate nuts, but do not remove them. Loosen the 2 jam nuts on both front turnbuckles. Adjust the length of both front turnbuckles to move the receiver plate to the desired position. Move the receiver plate down to raise the skid plate. Move the receiver plate up to lower the skid plate. Use a tape measure for reference to keep the receiver plate level. Measure the right and left sides to be sure the receiver plate is level. When the receiver plate is in the correct position, tighten the 6 receiver plate nuts and the 2 locking nuts on both front turnbuckles. Reattach the grader attachment and recheck the distance of the skid shoe to the ground. Step 3. Set up the tilt lock chains. The tilt lock chains are installed to prevent the bucket tilt cylinders from drifting forward down. They keep the grader level while operating. Make sure all operators are aware of the chains. Once the chains are tight, the operator should not adjust the bucket tilt and only raise and lower the grader using the skid steer boom. Caution: do not adjust skid steer bucket. Tilt cylinders forward down when the chains are tight. This will cause damage. When the tilt lock chain and turnbuckle are properly adjusted, the grader attachment is level. Begin with the grader attached, level and over a flat, hard surface. Lower the skid steer boom down to the hard stops. Tilt the grader towards the skid steer and slide the hooks into the boom slots. Connect the grader attachments, hydraulic hoses, and 14-pin connector. With your hydraulic continuous flow on, fully retract both lift cylinders. Roll your bucket tilt back until the middle of the cutting edge on the front of the blade is 5 inches above the ground. Loosen the chain turnbuckle jam nuts with the 1 5/8 inch and 1.5 inch wrenches. Retract, tighten both chain turnbuckles until they are tight with the cutting edge remaining 5 inches above the ground. This allows for 5 inches of movement up-down when the cutting edge is on grade. Tighten the jam nuts on the chain turnbuckles to lock them. Troubleshooting. With the skid shoe set correctly, the shoe will apply a constant and even pressure, leaving a smooth surface that is even with the skid steer tracks. If your finished surface is below the skid steer tracks and the shoe is pushing too much material, then you must lower the receiver plate in order to raise the shoe. If your finished surface is above the skid steer tracks and the shoe is not making contact with the surface, then you must raise the receiver plate in order to lower the shoe. Thanks for watching. For more support or product information, visit birchlandmfg.com.